Let us start working with array in C. So first of all, we have to know what is the array. It is a kind of data structure that is used to perform the storing of data of same data type. In simple term, we can say it is the collection of variables of same data type and it is used to store the values of same data type in sequential form. So why it is required? In our previous example, we have stored the marks of 5 subject or 3 subject or 10 subject. Then we have to individually define the variables and taking the input with the help of scanf for each and every subject. So what we have to do when we have not used the array, then we have to declare the variables and make them individually accessible. But suppose that we want to store the student marks with 5 subjects and we want to utilize the array, then we just have to declare a single variable with size. Suppose that we have to declare the 5 student subject. Previously we have done int s1, s2, s3, s4, s5, and here simply what I have to do, simply declare int s and how many subject we want to enter, because subject is of same data type and we can have a collection. So we have defined 5. How we can store the variables value without array? We have to use %d and ampersand variable name. Same for s2, s3, s4 and s5. But if we are using array, then we have to simply use the single scanf quotes with index number. If we have 5 subject, then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. S0, S1, S2, S3, S4 value will be stored. And what are the benefit we are getting with the help of array? Suppose that in future you want to start taking input for 10 subjects, then without array we have to rewrite so many codes. We have to redefine the variable names and we have to define how we can scan for the values and all. But if we are using array, then we just have to increase the number size from 5 to 10 simply. We have to just go here and define 10 and 10 over here. That's all. So while working with array, the index play a very vital role. How we can declare and how we can access. Suppose that we have defined the array and its size is 10. So the array index will be start from 0 and ends with length -1. It means if we have 10 elements in array, then index will be start from 0 to 9. Suppose that we have declared int n5 with array of integer data type as length 5, then we can access the array element starting with n0 to n5, where n0 this will be the first element and n4 will be the last element. And accessing outside the boundary will throw an exception that array index is out of bound. You cannot access n5 or more. And if you have defined the array, suppose that, so its position will be start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we have declared 6 element, and the values you can define anything whatever you want, but the array can be accessible in something like this. If this is num2 equal 3, then it means I am trying to access this. Num2 means num array name and bracket you have to define the index, and 2, that is the third element, equal 3. Yes, this is correct. Let us start with the practical and see how we can define the array and scan for the values and print the values. So in this program, we are trying to take the input of 5 marks and calculating them and printing the total. So what I am trying to do, first of all, I have declared the array of 5 integer type as known as subject. We have to enter the marks of 5 subject. So we have declared the subject variable as s and the length is 5. Then we have declared 2 regular variable that we already used, and now I am saying total is for now 0. Then it is printing the message for 5 times. Enter the marks of %d subject. %d means the current integer I value. Let's say I plus 1. Otherwise it will print enter the marks of 0 subject into the marks of 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of. Now it will be incremented by 1, so it will print enter the marks of subject 1, then subject 2. Let's say I am redefine the message subject %d and removing from here. Then it is simply taking scanf %d as we have already used the ampersand, then variable name. So here we have the 5 variables that are S0, S1 up to S5. So here the I value is for now 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. So it will take the input for 5 subject, and then it will come here and says the marks we have given is as follow. Then again it will come inside the loop from 0 to 4. Marks for, let's say, subject 1 is %d. So here I am saying I plus 1, then SI. So why I am using I plus 1? Because I want to print the message 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In marks for subject 1 is whatever you have given, then marks of subject 2 is, then marks of subject 3, then 4, then 5, not from marks of subject 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I will print the total marks at the end after printing this value. Let us go to the new line, then print the total marks and all. So we have done everything. We have defined the array and take the input for the array element and access the value in order to print the values. So just like regularly we use %d, then variable name. So here also we are using %d, then variable name. Here the variable name is s and followed with the index value, just like we have declared over here. Enter the marks for subject 1. Let's say I am saying 50. Then it will say enter the marks for subject 2, then 70, then 45, then 78, then 80. So the marks we have given is as follow. You can see we have given the input to the marks, and also we have read the values of the marks and calculated the value over here. So while printing the value, we are also utilizing the value in order to get the total marks. So what if I am not giving I plus 1, then what will happen? You can see enter the marks for subject 0. What is the subject 0? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter the marks of 0 subject, then subject 1, then subject 2, 3, 4. That's why just to enhance the message, I have incremented the value by 1. So in this way you can define the collection of element and the array element and utilizing them in order to fulfill your requirement. Now in future, if I am getting this marks for 7 subject, then I can do one more thing. Here I have defined int marks of 7. Now int max subject, I am saying 7. So wherever I have given the hardcode value, I can say max subject. So here also I can say max subject. So once I have the subject for 5 marks, so till then now I have 7 marks. I don't need to go below to every place to change the value. Suppose that we have for now 2 places where we are using the array, this particular array and its length. Suppose that we have 10 or 20 more places to access this subject array. Then what I have to do, every time I need to increment this value, I have to go below and check and increment and change the value for every places. But for defining this variable, now I have to just go here and apply the change. Now it is saying enter the marks for subject 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. So you have given the marks as below. So this is how we can define the array and use them in our program. So when I am saying I need to define the maximum subject only for one time, then it is getting more defined pattern. Suppose that now I am giving the marks for subject as follows. Let me just tell you what I have done. So here I have defined the maximum subject value only one time. Now I don't need to define the array length every time I just want to increase the subjects, the number of subjects. I just go here and change the value over here only. Suppose that I have only 3 subjects. Now I just given value 3 and run the application. It will run. Suppose that in future I am getting the requirement for 4, then I will simply just change the value. And so this is how it's better to create the constant array length on the top and just apply the change over there and get it utilized everywhere. I have defined the length over here that is getting accessible in order to define the number of subject, and for every processing, either it is for taking the input or it is printing the output. Everywhere we have utilized this value, and in future you don't have to worry for the number of places you have defined this particular length. You just have to define the length as constant value and use them. So that's all. Thank you so much.